arrests ICE has made so far since President Trump came back into office. Can you just tell us the numbers? How many have a criminal record versus those who are just in the country illegally?
All of them, because they illegally broke our nation's laws and therefore they are criminals as far as this administration goes. I know the last administration didn't see it that way, so it's a big culture shift in our nation to view someone who breaks our immigration laws as a criminal, but that's exactly what they are.
Well, listen, if you don't have anything to say, you blab. You just go on and 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 on.
Voters do not agree with these despicable women on The View. They are wildly out of touch with the vast majority of Americans, and frankly, they should seek immediate help.
Damn, that's crazy. Karoline Leavitt just took Whoopi Goldberg to school. Unfiltered and absolutely brutal. This wasn't just a comeback. It was a full-blown roast. Whoopi didn't even know how to respond. You could see the regret in her eyes, like she was asking herself why she spoke at all. Karoline was at her finest. Sharp, fearless, and dropping truth bombs like it was second nature. Stick around because the meltdown that follows is pure perfection.
I would like to talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who you work for.
I am stating facts that your colleagues have stated in the past.
Okay,
now,
I'm sorry, guys. We're going to come back out to the panel. Caroline, thank you very much for your time.
Whoopi Goldberg runs The View like a queen bee. Untouchable, unstoppable. She and Sunny Hostin come armed with sharp tongues, zero filter, always ready for a fight, even with Trump. But there's one name that completely throws them off their game. Karoline Leavitt. The 27-year-old White House press secretary has become their worst nightmare. Dropping truth bombs that leave Whoopi and her crew scrambling. This isn't pushback, it's obliteration. And trust me, the way it all started is pure gold. It kicked off when Joy Behar, The View's eternal backup act, rolled her eyes and claimed Karoline's meteoric rise had nothing to do with skill, just her looks.
I think she's probably been put in there because according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
I want to be clear, though, it's not her first job. It was her first press briefing. She worked in the previous Trump administration.
This is the first time that she's been she may be, but my point is that job would not maybe have been open to her.
No, I understand. I just wanted to clarify.
Now, of course, before we deep down into this breakdown, please hit that like button and subscribe us. It helps more than you think. When a young conservative woman succeeds, it suddenly has to be about her appearance, right? And just when the cringe couldn't get any worse, Whoopi stepped in, confidently claiming Karoline Leavitt would be nothing without guidance from voices like theirs. Yes, really. Whoopi Goldberg actually implied Karoline owes her success to The View. The irony was painful. But here's where it gets good, because Karoline didn't just respond, she torched them. Buckle up.
And watching this clip, I couldn't help but think how ironic that Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar and the rest of the ladies on The View spend their time calling Republicans the conspiracy theorists. But they have been wrong about everything they have said over the last couple of years. They likened President Trump to Hitler. They have mocked him. They have shamed him. They have lied about him consistently on their show. And it was a joy to watch them on November the 6th when they realized that tens of millions of Americans do not listen to the lies that they have spewed. These women are completely out of touch with reality.
No truer words spoken. If you're looking for a living, breathing example of being completely out of touch with reality, look no further than Whoopi Goldberg. Seriously, it's 2025, and she's still pushing the tired idea that a woman's success must be tied to her looks. That thinking should have been buried ages ago. Whoopi isn't just throwing shade, she's clinging to relevance. Because when someone like Karoline Leavitt shows up with brains, backbone, and a resume that speaks for itself, people like Whoopi don't see talent. They see a threat, and she didn't stop at the pretty face jab. She doubled down, claiming Karoline wouldn't succeed without the enlightened guidance of The View. Yes, she actually believes her panel is the secret behind conservative women making moves. And if you think that arrogance was the peak, just wait. Her next response is where she goes from out of touch to completely unhinged.
Well, listen, if you don't have anything to say, you blab. You just go on and 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 on.
Personally, this one really gets under my skin. It's one thing to challenge someone's ideas. That's fair. But when you can't win the argument and ditch the facts just to throw personal jabs, that's pure laziness. And no surprise, Whoopi Goldberg took the low road. She skipped right past Karoline Leavitt's actual points and went straight for her speaking style. Because when you've got nothing intelligent left, mocking delivery becomes the fallback. Picture it, Whoopi sitting there with that self-satisfied smirk brushing off Karoline's argument like it didn't even deserve air, sneering about whether she could finish a sentence, as if that erased everything just said. But here's what Whoopi didn't see coming. Karoline wasn't letting it slide, and when she fired back, let's just say the regret hit fast.
Voters do not agree with these despicable women on The View. They are wildly out of touch with the vast majority of Americans, and frankly, they should seek immediate help.
Spicy words from Karoline Leavitt, sure. But let's be honest, it was just the cold, hard truth. How many people haven't already called for The View to be canceled by now? The show has been circling the drain for years, surviving on cheap outrage, forced laughter, and an audience trained to clap on cue every time Whoopi or Joy repeats another worn-out talking point. And let's not pretend the panel doesn't need serious help. They've delivered some of the most embarrassing comments ever aired on daytime TV, moments so absurd they almost parody themselves. But here's the real kicker, it's not just bad press anymore. Allegedly, lawsuits are stacking up fast, messy, relentless, and impossible to ignore. So when Karoline called them out, it wasn't just spicy, it was a reality check they've been dodging for far too long.
I would like this young lady this is her first job, I would like her to do a little homework. Because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you. Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
Yeah.
Because women were not invited to that table. Women were not invited to many tables in this nation. The reason we fought and busted our behinds to make sure that you didn't have to worry about this. And now to hear you talk about it and to hear anybody talk about the wokeness was put in place for a reason.
When Whoopi Goldberg realized that mocking Karoline Leavitt's speaking style had blown up in her face, she did what every cornered pundit does. Suddenly pretend to care about the argument itself. Fine, game on. Karoline had already made her position crystal clear. The days of White House press briefings drowning in buzzwords and performative outrage were over. Under her watch, it would be common sense first, feelings last, policies judged by logic, not by how well they pleased online mobs. That message landed hard, so hard it had Whoopi visibly uncomfortable. But did she pause to reflect? Of course not. Instead, she doubled down, insisting that wokeness wasn't the problem, but the very reason Karoline had the job at all. Yes, Whoopi actually argued that a 27-year-old powerhouse with a solid resume owed her success to the ideology she was actively dismantling. The irony was unreal. Whoopi didn't just miss the point, she launched it into orbit and watched it burn on the way back down. And the look on her face when Karoline fired back. Perfection. But we'll get to that. First, let's look at another clip where Whoopi and her live studio audience mocked Karoline after she was rudely interrupted by a CNN journalist.
Ma'am, I'm going to stop this interview if you continue to attack my colleagues. I would like to talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who you work for.
I am stating facts that your colleagues have stated in the past.
Okay,
now,
I'm sorry, guys. We're going to come back out to the panel. Karoline, thank you very much for your time.
That was so good.
What Whoopi said next wasn't just ridiculous, it was outright bizarre. But honestly, who was shocked? This is The View. If you tune in expecting real intellectual depth, you're watching the wrong soap opera. After decades on television and a long Hollywood career, you'd think Whoopi Goldberg might have developed sharper banter, some wit, a clever comeback, something. Instead, it was the same tired routine, recycled arguments, sanctimonious head tilts, and those world-weary sighs like she's carrying the burden of humanity. In reality, she's carrying a stack of bad takes, and this one was Hall of Fame level. She actually claimed Karoline Leavitt's rejection of of wokeness was dangerous. Dangerous for young women, as if independent thinking and merit-based success are now threats. It wasn't just hypocritical, it was loud, wrong, and proudly so. And you can probably guess what came next. Karoline didn't just clap back, she annihilated her. But before that, let's hear what Whoopi said about Karoline's response.
In a statement afterwards, this young lady claimed her, quote, on-air snub proves that you know who will not be treated fairly in the upcoming debate. Now, do you think this is going to make people doubt whether CNN can stay objective, or is this more the same of, everybody's against me, it's all rigged, I tell you. Is everything rigged?
No, it's their MO. That's what they do. Rachel Maddow said last week, she's like, if the election is lost, it was rigged. If there's a debate, then the moderators are probably biased and they're prejudiced against me.
You are here and still haven't subscribed. Please take a second and subscribe us. Now the entire room went dead silent the moment Whoopi Goldberg opened her mouth. You could feel the tension. Everyone knew something ridiculous was coming. And instead of sticking to Karoline Leavitt, Whoopi dragged her boss, Donald Trump, into it. No shock there. That's the default move when the argument collapses. When facts, logic, and common sense run out, they pivot. They stop debating and start attacking anyone in your orbit. Guilt by association dressed up as moral superiority. Whoopi didn't just suggest Karoline's position was flawed. She flat out claimed it was manufactured by Trump himself, as if a 27-year-old with more political experience than half of Whoopi's online commentary combined couldn't think independently. The smug grin, the condescending tone, she clearly thought she'd landed the final blow. Of course she thinks that way. She works for Trump. Classic deflection. No rebuttal, no counterpoint, just lazy character assassination. But if Whoopi thought that move would shake Karoline, she was dead wrong. Even the audience knew it. They clapped, sure, on cue, but deep down they knew their heroine was in trouble. Karoline didn't rush a comeback. She smiled, not nervous, confident. The smile of someone who knew she had the facts to flip the entire script. She scanned the room slowly, deliberately, calm, controlled, and when she spoke, she didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Truth delivered with conviction, cut straight through silence. She went right to the core. Government funding, or more accurately, wasteful spending. Karoline made it clear the days of blank checks for pet projects and feel-good initiatives were over. The priority was fixing an economy buried under bureaucratic excess. When she mentioned so-called woke programs, you could practically hear the panel bristle. She didn't hesitate. She called out millions poured into federal language guides, as if changing words could somehow change reality. Then came the real gut punch. Funding pulled from gender studies programs, posing as academics, while producing nothing but ideological echo chambers. Taxpayers, she said, shouldn't be paying for political activism disguised as education. The room froze. Even Whoopi had nothing to say, and that silence said everything.
Most divisive and disgusting speech that any president, certainly in my lifetime, has ever given. He essentially waged war on half of the country by saying that we are all a threat to democracy because we believe in putting America first. It's not radical to want to put your country and your own people first. It's not radical to want to have a strong border, a strong military, and to unleash the might of your own economy, not economies around the world.
Karoline isn't just smart, like she's razor sharp, articulate, and always 10 steps ahead. It's almost tragic, that the women on The View chose mockery over giving credit where it's earned. And let's not pretend this is just partisan politics. If Karoline were an awkward, middle-aged bureaucrat repeating safe talking points, they wouldn't blink. This obsession is personal. It's jealousy, plain and simple. They can't stand that a 27-year-old powerhouse, sharp, confident, and completely unfazed by their nonsense, has outclassed them at every turn. That's why they fixate on her age and looks, like confidence somehow expires. It's playground level pettiness dressed up as commentary. And here's the best part. Every time they try to tear her down, Karoline rises higher, and because while they're sniping from the sidelines, she's out there winning.
You know, we have seen cultural Marxism trickling its way through every institution in this country. The public school system, the higher education university system, Hollywood, big tech, the corrupt mainstream media that I fought against in President Trump's White House are indoctrinating my generation of Americans into hating our country, hating one another based on race and gender and and all of this other BS, quite frankly.
Whoopi, the self-proclaimed queen of shutting down conservative voices and steamrolling every conversation, suddenly looked shaken. The once dominant host, always quick to interrupt, ridicule, and drown out dissent, now sat stiff in her chair, like someone who had just seen a ghost. And in a way, she had. Across from her was Karoline Leavitt, unbothered, unyielding, and completely unfazed by Whoopi Goldberg's usual tactics. This wasn't just a clash of opinions, it was composure versus chaos. Whoopi was outmatched, outclassed, and clearly out of her depth. The smug grin vanished. The sarcastic head tilts were gone. No dismissive chuckles, just a tense mouth searching for a comeback that never came. Her hands, usually flailing with exaggerated gestures, stayed frozen on the table, like moving them might expose how rattled she really was. Whoopi built her brand on controlling the narrative and keeping guests defensive, but not this time. This time, her narrative was collapsing piece by piece under Karoline's unflinching truth bombs. It wasn't a debate anymore. It was a reckoning, and Whoopi knew it. She looked desperate for a commercial break, but it wasn't coming. The tension hung thick in the studio as she struggled to recover, finally turning to Joy Behar for rescue, hoping a few recycled Trump jokes might save the moment on The View.
And somebody just yelled out, Trump, to me, like, you know, like some kind of weird, what do you call it, like a blurt.
Outburst?
Just like a blurt to me, like I'm supposed to understand what that means, which I do.
The audience laughed, but it wasn't joyful or carefree. It was nervous, strained, the kind of laughter people use when they don't know what else to do. Even Joy Behar. The show's self-appointed comic relief jumped in to rescue the moment, but her joke landed like a lead weight. Awkward, hollow, and painfully out of place. Instead of easing the tension, it exposed it. The energy in the room had shifted, and everyone felt it. The usual The View routine, mock, dismiss, move on, wasn't working. Whoopi Goldberg sat there visibly rattled. Karoline Leavitt's takedown hadn't just bruised her ego, it cracked her confidence. For once, the woman known for snarky retorts and dismissive gestures was scrambling for a lifeline. But with Joy's punchline dead on arrival, and the audience too uncomfortable to play along, no rescue came. Whoopi had no choice but to bow out like a defeated fighter, outmatched and outplayed by Karoline Leavitt, a 27-year-old who didn't just hold her ground, she owned the exchange. It wasn't just a loss, it was humiliation, broadcast in real time. And it didn't stop there. Karoline's dominance wasn't limited to Whoopi and her circle. She's been delivering the same treatment to compliant reporters again and again.
And the president and this administration are committed to ensuring that these individuals get the funding that they need. And I would just say a strong message to Democrats who are out there pretending to be outraged about the long list of crap that this administration is cutting, federal waste and funding, like $2 million for sex changes in Guatemala, $6 million to fund tourism in Egypt, $20 million on a new Sesame Street show in Iraq, $4.5 million to combat disinformation in Kazakhstan. I could go on, and I'm happy to provide this list to every single one of you.
The backstory here was a textbook media bait and switch. One reporter, clearly trying to corner Karoline, asked why Donald Trump seemed unfazed by wildfires in California while pushing to cut funding for certain state departments. It was a classic gotcha, crafted to paint him as heartless and disconnected. But Karoline Leavitt didn't flinch. She fired back instantly, slicing through the narrative with precision. It was about priorities, she said, sharp, deliberate, and direct. America is buried in debt, drowning in reckless spending. And someone has to take control before the ship goes under. That's why the administration is focused on cutting non-essential funding, including the same woke programs she had just dismantled. Why should taxpayers pay for initiatives that don't help working Americans? The room went quiet. The trap collapsed. The reporter froze. And once again, Karoline flipped the script and exposed the emptiness behind the outrage.
Who advised the president on the legality of telling government agencies that they don't have to spend money that was already appropriated by Congress?
Well, as the OMB memo states, this is certainly within the confines of the law. So White House counsel's office believes that this is within the president's power to do it, and therefore he's doing it.
Okay, so they disagree with lawmakers who say that they don't have the power to freeze this funding.
Again, I would point you to the language in the memo that clearly states this is within the law.
And all that happened on Friday night. The administration fired several inspectors general without giving Congress the 30-day legally required notification that they were being fired. I think only 2 were left at DHS and the DOJ. And then yesterday we saw several prosecutors, I believe 12, fired from the Justice Department who worked on the investigations into the president. As you know, they are career prosecutors, therefore they are afforded civil service protections. How is the administration deciding which laws to follow and which ones to ignore?
So it is the belief of this White House and the White House counsel's office that the president was within his executive authority to do that. He is the executive of the executive branch, and therefore he has the power to fire anyone within the executive branch.
Simple as that. The president has every right to fire anyone he believes is unfit for the job they were trusted with. It's not personal, it's business. When someone fails to meet the responsibilities of their role, especially when those failures start costing taxpayers, it's game over. Of course, the so-called woke reporters are losing their minds, rushing to shield their ideological allies in public office with pearl-clutching headlines and theatrical outrage. But Donald Trump isn't playing that game. He's not here to protect incompetence or uphold a buddy system that's let mediocrity thrive for years. You're hired on merit and you're fired on results. Period. That standard isn't extreme, it's accountability, and it's fully within constitutional authority. Let's be honest, if the roles were reversed and a Democrat were cleaning house, these same reporters would be applauding it as courageous leadership. Because it's Trump, they cry foul. The hypocrisy is almost comical. Trump isn't handing out participation trophies or building safe spaces. He's here to fix what's broken. And if that means cutting dead weight, so be it.
Arrests ICE has made so far since President Trump came back into office. Can you just tell us the numbers? How many have a criminal record versus those who are just in the country illegally?
All of them, because they illegally broke our nation's laws and therefore they are criminals as far as this administration goes. I know the last administration didn't see it that way, so it's a big culture shift in our nation to view someone who breaks our immigration laws as a criminal, but that's exactly what they are.
And just like that, game, set, match. Karoline Leavitt didn't just survive the ambush, she dismantled it, leaving Whoopi Goldberg, Joy, and the usual chorus scrambling. No cheap shots, no low blows, just cold, hard facts, delivered with surgical precision and undeniable force. The message was unmistakable. Competence wins, victimhood loses. And if the women of The View thought they could bully, mock, or outmaneuver Karoline, they learned the hard way. They picked the wrong fight. This team is here to clean house, and judging by Karoline's performance, they've got the right person for the job. With that, we close out today's video. If you enjoyed this sharp take on the clash between Karoline Leavitt and Whoopi Goldberg, hit like, subscribe for more, and share it around. Thanks for watching.